Chapter 1. In City A's social scene, everyone says young Master Alan only goes for girls who are 18. But Iris? She was already 21 when she started tagging along with Alan, and she's stuck around for nearly 3 years now. Early evening. Iris gets a call. Alan's on the line, saying he's coming back to City A tonight, and casually drops that he's craving some plum-glazed pork ribs. Iris busts her ass for 2 hours cooking up a feast, waiting left and right, but Alan? No sign of him. After 8, she calls him again, noise blasting from his side, guys and girls laughing, shouting, mahjong tiles clicking all over the place. I told the driver to swing by and pick you up at Panda. Wait, didn't you say you'd be back for dinner tonight? Iris asked. You haven't eaten yet? Want me to send someone to get you something? Just say the word, Alan said, not really bothered. Iris was quiet for a moment, just about to say sure, when a voice popped in on the line. Nonsense. With some crackly background noise. Someone laughed. Iris seriously. What's her deal? It's been forever and she's still sticking around? Young Master Alan, you're not actually going for it, are you? Alan pfft. He snorted. Clear the nonsense out of your head before you talk to me. You just don't get it. Keep a dog long enough, it'll still have some loyalty. So Iris, being such a good little sycophant, how could young Master Alan ever just dump her? Get lost. Alan laughed, half mocking. More crackling noises. Then after a bit, everything went quiet. Guess Alan realized he hadn't hung up and finally ended the call. When Iris got to the club, the card game was still going on, same people from the call. But no one cared. Everyone was totally sure Iris wouldn't even blink at whatever trash she heard, and wouldn't dare to either. Iris' pretty. Sure. But there's a ton of cute girls out there. With Alan's status in City A, he could pick any beauty he wanted. The only reason Iris is stuck around all these years? Because she's quietly obedient and knows her place. As expected, Iris just sat there by Alan, eyes down like the good little shadow she is. Coming out of the club in the middle of the night, Alan was pretty wasted, practically draped all over Iris. Iris shoved him into the car, breaking a sweat from the effort. The car rolled down the hill. The road was totally dark. Not a single street lamp around. It felt a bit like the middle of nowhere. Alan leaned in and kissed Iris. Iris had been sitting all prim and proper, but the moment he nibbled her earlobe, she couldn't hold back a little sound. Alan got even more fired up, grabbed her hand and pressed it down, then practically threw his whole weight on her. Hey, come on, Iris whispered, barely audible, nervously peeking towards the front seats. Alan didn't stop. Instead, he knocked on the partition behind him with the back of his hand. The car gradually pulled over to the curb. Alan's tricks were endless, totally reckless with zero shame. Iris had been sticking with him all this time but still wasn't used to it, hearing the driver step out and close the door. Her face flamed bright red. Alan seemed totally hooked on how she looked, gave her a little pinch on the cheek, then grabbed her chin and kissed her before freeing one hand to undo his belt. With barely any room to move, Alan was coming at her full throttle, sweaty and breathless on this chilly late autumn night. They were both a mess. Iris looked up and saw sweat glistening on Alan's handsome face, tracing down his jaw, Adam's apple, chest, and stomach, dripping all the way down. She had to hand it to him, putting aside the fact he's the Wong family's golden boy. The guy's got looks that could melt a lot of hearts. Alan Wong glanced at her, chuckled, and said, "What are you looking at?" Suddenly all shy. Huh? Before Iris could respond, she felt a chill at her wrist, and with a click, a fully jeweled bracelet was locked onto her wrist, sliding down along her forearm. Birthday present. Alan rolled over, satisfied, lazily grabbed his shirt. Iris lowered her eyes. The cell phone showed just past midnight, October 19th. Actually, it wasn't her birthday. Thanks. Iris leaned in and wrapped her arms around Alan's waist, kissing his cheek. The cell phone rang just then. Iris glanced over without thinking, but Alan was already on it. Alan, Sophia's voice came through, quietly sobbing in the cramped car. Alan snapped upright. What's going on? Don't rush. Just tell me slowly. All they could hear was her crying. No words at all. Alan frowned, buttoning up his shirt fast. I'm on my way. Hanging up. Alan buttoned the last button and said, out of the car. No explanations. Not even a second for Iris to fix her hair or makeup. Iris, wrapped in a windbreaker, stood by the overgrown roadside, watching Alan's car fade into the darkness. The sweat on his skin slowly dried up in the cold wind, sticking stubbornly to him. His cell phone buzzed in his pocket. Iris pulled it out. See? One call from me and he's already ditching you. You could practically see the smugness dripping off the screen. Iris grabbed her collar, snapped a pic of the angry red marks on her neck, and sent it off. Chapter 2. After a bit, a message popped up. Shameless. Iris curled a lip in a sly smile. Messages kept pouring in, no need to check. Iris could already guess it was more of the usual stuff, playing innocent, seductress, and all that garbage. She stuffed her cell phone into her pocket, hugged herself tight against the chilly wind, and let out a bitter little laugh. These kinds of days. Well, at least there's only 11 more days till it's all over. The next morning, Iris headed to school to hand her thesis over to her mentor. Iris, you're a good kid with potential, but seriously, you gotta focus more on your studies. How many times have you redone this thing now? Tell me. His mentor, sharp in a suit, pushed his gold-rimmed glasses up his nose, fixing Iris with a teasing, almost smirky look. What exactly do you want me to change, sir? I've been tweaking it just like you said. Iris dropped her gaze, her whole stance soft and obedient. So, decided yet? The mentor got up, strolled over behind Iris, and ran his hand through her silky hair. When Iris didn't flinch, his hand settled on her shoulder, fingers kneading gently through her thin top. Iris closed her eyes, whispering, "Teacher, what exactly is it you like about me?" The mentor chuckled. "Seriously? You've got this totally conflicting vibe that just pulls guys in, fragile yet stubborn. Pure but kinda naughty too." As he said that, his fingers drifted lower. Iris jerked free, voice rising. "What are you doing, teacher? Let go. I'm here to hand in my thesis. Do I really have to deal with this crap just 'cause I won't play your little game?" The mentor's face flickered a few times as he thought. "You're scheming against me?" Iris said, voice shaking and close to tears. "Teacher, don't be like this. Please." The mentor's face darkened. "You damn." Bam! The office door was kicked wide open, seeing Alan storm in with that angry glare. Iris paused, stunned. Then the sound of the mentor hitting the floor and screaming in pain filled the room. Alan was brutal, each punch landed with a bone-crunching thud. After a few stunned seconds, Iris snapped back and lunged at him. "Alan, stop it." The guy on the ground had a crooked nose and was out cold. Alan, still pissed off, stepped up and gave him a hard kick. Iris grabbed him around the waist. "Keep this up and someone's gonna get seriously hurt." Alan was panting, then glanced at her. When his eyes caught the red mark on her collarbone, his look darkened and he snapped. "He did this?" Iris followed his gaze and looked down, smirking. "You're the one who did." Alan had nothing to say, ignoring Iris's protests. He spun around and kicked the guy on the ground again, hard. Only then did he grab Iris's wrist and pull her outside. Iris snatched the bag off the table, let out a quiet sigh to herself, then sneaked a quick switch off of the little voice recorder inside. "How long has this been going on? Why didn't you tell me?" Alan was still fuming, walking so fast Iris had to break into a jog just to keep up. "How long?" Iris figured silently. "Yeah, probably over 6 months. It started with just words, then moved on to touch. Once she said no flat out, they began making life miserable everywhere, trying to force her to give in. Why didn't you tell him?" She'd once thought about telling him. I mean, something that's been grinding her down for months. A single word from young Master Alan would fix it. Or hell, if he just stormed in and smashed the guy half to death, he'd walk away scot-free. Why not? Iris sensed a sharp sting of bitterness inside. But before she knew it, she was smirking again. So, what exactly did Alan say that day? He went, "Iris, don't get too full of yourself. I'm being nice here. Do you seriously think you're my girlfriend or something?" That one time, Iris got stuck out in that crazy downpour all night and ended up sick with a fever for a whole week. And even after she got better, she was the one crawling back to Alan to say sorry, face still bruised from the storm. After that, They just acted like nada happened. Everything went back to normal, but Iris knew better. Things weren't the same for her anymore. Alan made a call, gave a few quick instructions, and the person on the other end, all respectful and formal, said they'd handle it ASAP. "What are you doing at school?" After he hung up, Iris asked. Alan didn't even need to answer. By the time he got to the door, Iris already knew what was up. "Senior, what a coincidence. You're at school today too?" Sophia popped her head out of the car, looking all innocent and surprised, totally wiped clean of last night's cocky, taunting texts. Chapter 3. Get in. Alan let go of Iris's hand and headed over to the driver's seat. Iris stepped closer when suddenly Sophia panicked a bit and scrambled to get out of the car. "Sorry, Senior. It's just that I didn't want to treat Alan like my personal driver and sat shotgun. I'll get out now. You take over. Don't mess around with that sprained ankle." Alan cut her off. Iris didn't wait for him to say anything else and just opened the back door to slide in. The car started moving. Alan looked kind of annoyed. For a little while, nobody said a word inside. After a bit, Sophia glanced over nervously. "Senior, are you mad? Alan only gave me a ride to school to hand in my homework 'cause he saw I sprained my ankle. Nothing else." Back then, Iris would have at least smiled and tossed out something like, "Aren't freshmen supposed to live on campus?" Now, she just found it boring and kept quiet. Alan just shrugged and said, "She's in a bad mood. What's that got to do with you? Kids these days, always making a big deal out of nothing." Sophia gave a shy smile, then pouted. "Come on, Alan. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm already 18. A few years more and I'll be an old lady." His eyes casually flicked over to Iris. Alan looked like he might actually be amused by that. His frown easing off a bit, Sophia started chatting about her experience getting into school. And surprisingly, Alan actually paid close attention. Iris stared out the window, a little lost in her own world. Was Alan 3 years ago any different? She dropped some little hints, pretending to be all naive and clueless, while Alan just patiently let her ramble on. Then he grabbed her chin and kissed her. Back then, his kisses were soft, sincere, and careful. After that, he got hooked on kissing her, though later, those kisses turned possessive, like staking a claim, full of raw desire, stormy and impatient. She totally melted into it for a while, until one day, she overheard one of Alan's old friends teasing him. "Didn't expect Iris to be such a wild one. Bro, when you get bored, don't forget to let me have a go." Iris tuned out and bolted. Having the affair spilled for everyone to see was humiliating enough, but she was terrified Alan might say something even worse, something that would crush her completely. Back then, she actually still cared about Alan. "Senior, is that cool?" Sophia's voice pulled Iris back. "What?" Iris looked up. "Alan said you make killer plum-glazed pork ribs. Senior, can you make some for us?" Sophia grinned. Iris peeked at Alan through the rearview mirror. He didn't give anything away. "Okay," she said. "Awesome. Thanks, Senior." Right after, Iris's phone buzzed. Sophia texted, "Thanks for playing nurse and chef for us." A few seconds later, Sophia messaged again, "Wanna know why Alan's obsessed with the plum-glazed pork ribs?" Then Sophia just went silent. She was totally messing with Iris, just waiting to see her get all worked up. But Iris just calmly glanced down. It wasn't until the car pulled into the villa neighborhood that Iris got another message from Sophia. "So, someone actually made this dish by hand for him before. You wanna guess who that was?" Iris didn't say a word, just put her cell phone away. The car pulled up in front of the villa. Sophia pushed the door open to get out, but the second her heels hit the ground, she let out a little yelp and nearly tripped. Alan caught her just in time. "Alan, I'm fine. I'll walk slow." "Hey!" Sophia shouted, then got swept up in Alan's arms, totally sideways. Iris stepped out and caught sight of Sophia. Arms looped around Alan's neck, head popped out from his shoulder all shy and cozy, shooting Iris a quick glance. Back then, when stuff like this happened, Iris would get all twisted up inside but never let it show, just kept burning herself out quietly. Now, she just watches coolly and slams the car door shut behind her like it's no big deal. She even beat Alan to it, reaching out to unlock the keypad in front of the villa before he could move. Alan shot her a look, dark, unreadable, no clue if he was pissed or pleased. Iris was blanching ribs in the kitchen while Sophia's giggles floated from the living room. All innocent and carefree. The phone buzzed on the counter. Iris thought it was another one of Sophia's cheeky texts, but seeing it made her heart skip a totally unexpected beat. That string of numbers. No label but burned into memory, message just a few words, send me 1,000,000. Iris grabbed her cell phone and started typing fast. Suddenly, boiling water splashed from the pot. Iris freaked out and ended up knocking the whole thing over. A sharp pain shot through her foot right away. Chapter 4. The racket was too loud. Alan heard it and came rushing over. Iris saw him and her first instinct was to stash the cell phone. Alan didn't even notice her tiny move. He stepped over the mess in 2 quick strides, scooped Iris up with one arm, and turned on the faucet with the other. The skin on the burn started to go numb under the cool water. But then the pain hit hard again. Waves of it. Iris bit her lip. Her face ghostly pale. Alan with a deadpan face grabbed her ankle tight. Iris. Seriously? You're still a kid and you can't even handle boiling water? Iris, annoyed and hurting like hell, bit down on Alan's shoulder. Alan gritted his teeth but held on tight. Senior, did you get burned? It's not too bad, right? Sophia popped up at the kitchen door looking all worried. I'll go grab some burn ointment. Alan checked Iris's foot, then scooped her up and stepped right past Sophia. Come on, we're heading to the hospital. When the car started, Sophia limped over, saying she was worried about Iris and just had to tag along. Alan floored it the whole way. Iris's phone vibrated quietly in her bag. She gripped it through the fabric, clearly annoyed. Neither of them said a word. The vibe in the car was pretty heavy. Halfway through, Sophia suddenly covered her face and burst into tears. Senior, it's totally my fault. If I hadn't said I wanted plum-glazed pork ribs, you wouldn't have gotten burned. Looking at you reminded me of my sister. Senior, I couldn't help but want to get close to you. Alan's eyes flickered a bit. Iris didn't say a word, but Alan jumped in to comfort Sophia. Sophia was still sniffling. Sorry. Senior, I totally didn't think it through. I should have guessed you might not want to share the dish since you made it just for Alan. Plus, I only sprained my foot because I got pushed down, I swear. It wasn't on purpose. I had no choice but to bother Alan. Alan seemed to remember something, and his expression slowly darkened. The car slammed to a stop right outside the hospital, and Iris nearly barreled into the windshield. Alan shot her a look as cold as ice. Iris. Seriously? It's just making a dish. If you don't want to do it, then don't. Why drag yourself through all this? Do you ever get tired of this routine? Get lost. Iris stood barefoot on the hospital's concrete, her feet freezing and the tops aching from the cold, watching Alan's car speed away. She couldn't help but remember that stormy night all over again. Well, at least today he actually drove her right up to the hospital entrance. Iris gave a bitter little smile. The phone in her bag buzzed like it was trying to kill her. This time, it was an actual call coming through. Iris took a deep breath, masking the irritation flickering in her eyes before she picked up. A raspy, gloomy middle-aged woman's voice blared. Who the hell do you think you're fooling saying you're broke? In case you didn't know, Zach's off studying in City A. And he saw you, yeah, you, jumping into some fancy-ass car today. That ride must have cost a fortune. You're running with some big shot and keeping it from us? Listen, if you don't cough up 1,000,000, it's on me. That's chump change to that guy anyway. I've already got his plate number. No money this week. And I'm going to his door, watch your whole setup go up in smoke. Iris gritted her teeth, voice ice cold. Other than the $3,000 a month, not a single extra cent is coming from me. After hanging up, Iris realized her hand was shaking as she held the cell phone. Hell, her whole body was shaking. She couldn't tell if it was from anger or just plain fear. The phone kept ringing, refusing to give her a break. Iris was at her wit's end, leaning against the wall as she picked up and snapped. Are you people ever gonna stop? Just buzz off. Senior, don't yell at me. Sophia's timid voice came through the phone. I was just a little worried about you. Iris slowly glanced at the screen. Yep, it was Sophia's number. No doubt about it, when Sophia talks to her like that. Alan's definitely got the speakerphone on. Just as expected. Alan's cold voice snapped through next. Iris. Say sorry. Iris let out a long sigh, hands trembling as she slammed down the call. Chapter 5. After that day, Alan didn't reach out to Iris again, nor did he come back. Iris knew he was pissed. This was his way of punishing her for being a brat that day. Back then, Iris would have been crawling back to apologize before day 3. But now, she peeked at the calendar and just thought, whatever, every once in a while, she deserves to slack off. On the last day of October, the light rain turned gloomy. In the evening, Iris got a call from Alan, who just dropped an address and told her to show up dressed to kill. Alan didn't say what the event was, but Iris knew it was his childhood buddy Marco's birthday bash. Ever since she started hanging out with Alan, she's been keeping track of all his friends' big days. Iris said yes without a second thought. They didn't bring up what happened last time. Not a word over the phone. Her foot was still sore, so she'd been in slippers at home, but to go with the party dress, she gritted her teeth and shoved that foot into a pair of heels. At the banquet, Iris unexpectedly spotted Alan's mom. The graceful, classy woman held Alan's arm high as she passed right by Iris. She gave Iris a quick once-over, just a couple of seconds, then just as easily looked away and walked off. Iris caught Marco joking behind her. The birthday boy's gift is delivered. So I'm out, don't want to cramp your young crowd style or spoil the fun. After Alan's mom left, Iris glanced over at Sophia, who'd popped up out of nowhere, and suddenly it clicked why Alan had actually called her here today. Everyone around here says the reason Iris has managed to stick by Alan's side for over 2 years is mostly because she's the only one Alan's mom hasn't openly thrown shade at. Obviously, it's not like he's into her or anything, he just straight up ignores her. So it turns out Alan had him come over today just to take the heat off Sophia. As long as Alan's mom is busy giving Iris a hard time, Sophia's off the hook. Iris let out a quiet, knowing smile. After Alan saw his mom off, he headed straight over to Sophia. Sophia wore a light blue dress, her long black hair falling smoothly over her shoulders. She had her head slightly down, looking shy, but her eyes couldn't hide how curious she was. Sneaking glances around, Alan looked at her, his eyes flickering with a little spark, like a secret light dancing inside. A server was passing by with a tray and accidentally bumped into Sophia. Seeing the tray start to tip, Alan quickly wrapped an arm around Sophia's waist and pulled her out of the way. Wine glasses crashed to the floor with a loud clatter, snapping everyone's attention to them. Sophia freaked out, clutching Alan's collar tight and shrinking into his chest. Alan. Oh no, did I just mess things up? So embarrassing. Alan rubbed her back like it was nothing. Who's ever gonna say you're embarrassing? I am cleaning it up right now. Sophia panicked and crouched down to grab the scattered wine glass shards but instantly yelped ah, and pulled her hand back. Alan worriedly lifted her hand to check it out. The server crouched on the floor was already freaked out, apologizing nonstop while scrambling to clean up the mess. Humph. Iris caught the sneer from behind her. The waves just keep coming. Huh? All right there, right in front of Iris, making fun of Sophia, and taking shots at her too. Alan's friends never accepted Iris. They looked down on someone so plain. Sure, they could laugh and joke with Alan around, but once he wasn't there, their sneers and cold sarcasm came out in full force. No one ever worried that Iris would rat out Alan right to his face. The only reason she's managed to stick around him this long is that she's both good girl material and pretty much plays the loyal bootlicker role. Iris stepped outside for some air. It was freezing by the swimming pool, so the place was deserted. The warmth from inside vanished fast, leaving her chilled to the bone. She just finished 2 glasses of wine and was starting to feel a bit warmer when Sophia came out. Sophia's cheeks were flushed like she'd had a few too many. She wobbled over, clutching her wine glass. Senior, I need to tell you something. Iris quickly took a step back, putting some space between them. Don't try to play dirty. Sophia leaned in closer, whispering right by her ear. If, say we both fell in at the same time, who do you think Alan would save? With a loud splash, Iris was yanked down into the swimming pool. Chapter 6. The freezing water hit her lungs, and the soaked party dress was dragging Iris down hard. Iris kicked her legs, but the clingy dress was holding her back. Can't surface, can't touch bottom. Her heart was pounding so hard. Iris felt like she couldn't breathe. She fought to pull the skirt off her legs, and finally, her toes grazed the bottom of the pool. With all her strength, she kicked off the bottom and barely broke the surface. A crowd swarmed the poolside, the noise buzzing all around. Iris, still coughing, caught sight of Alan pushing through the crowd. Didn't even take his shoes off. Just jumped right in and swam hard toward Sophia. A splash hit Iris's face, blurring her vision for a moment. Alan didn't waste time and scooped Sophia up onto shore. Sophia looked pale as a ghost, but Alan was somehow even worse off. He grabbed a towel someone tossed over and wrapped it around Sophia, holding her like she was some priceless find. Sophia opened her eyes, tears spilling down. Alan. I was seriously freaked out. Iris wiped the water off her face and slowly edged toward shore, clinging to her float, grabbing onto the safety handrail. Iris reached out and stepped one foot onto the top of the escalator. Iris looked up to see Alan's face, cold as a freaking glacier. Apologize. He looked down on her like he was some king. Iris met his cold stare. It wasn't me. If it wasn't you, then what? She did it. She's terrified of water. Can't even swim. Sophia was quietly sniffling while everyone around watched and whispered among themselves. A giant spotlight turned on above, its harsh white beam hitting Iris like she was a suspect under interrogation. Iris. Apologize. Alan's voice was tight, like he was biting back every word. Hey, what's going on here? Birthday boy Marco rushed over, trying to pull Alan back. Iris wouldn't seriously. You know, would she? Just look at her. She's already made a scene. Marco was one of the few in Alan's circle who didn't gossip about Iris behind her back. Alan sneered, eyes sharp enough to cut. She's an expert at getting herself into exactly this kind of mess. Marco was about to push further when Iris suddenly smiled. I apologize. Sorry about that. Sophia. She tilted her head back and grinned like it was sunshine. Alan froze up out of nowhere. Even Marco blinked, caught off guard. No one's still cracking up in a mess like this. Next thing, Iris reached out, gently tugged on Alan's pants leg, whispering, Don't be mad, okay? Yeah, that's Iris for you, willing to do whatever just to keep Alan sweet. It's just an apology. Really, who cares about right or wrong here anyway? Marco relaxed, letting someone haul Iris back on her feet. Alan kept his face ice cold. His anger hit its peak when Iris let out that quiet laugh, but then weirdly melted away as she apologized softly, turning into a weird mix of restless irritation and stuck feelings, like something inside was starting to slip out of control. Iris barefoot, holding up her dress as she walked past him. Alan snatched her wrist. Alan, my stomach really hurts, Sophia said in a shaky voice, clutching her belly, clearly in bad pain. After a beat, Alan let go of Iris's hand and hurried over to kneel beside Sophia. Come on, I'm taking you to the hospital for a full checkup. Iris was left standing there alone, her party dress all tangled, soaking up every judgmental stare coming from all sides. Those looks carried a mix of disgust, mockery, and some weird excitement. Iris's really getting dumped by Alan this time. Huh? Taking his new girl right in front of her? If I were her, I wouldn't have the face to show up anywhere. That's you talking, not Iris. She's way more open-minded than that. Bet she'll be shamelessly cozying right back up tomorrow. Marco handed her a towel, looking a bit awkward. I'll have someone take you to the changing room. Thanks. Iris wrapped a thin, see-through dress with a towel and then turned, following the server out. The burned skin on the top of her foot scraped against the pool tiles during the struggle, peeling right off and bleeding like crazy. Iris acted like she didn't even notice, calmly walking out one step at a time. By the time she got back to the villa, it was already past 11 at night. Iris went upstairs, changed, then grabbed the suitcase she packed earlier from the closet. When she got to the living room, the housekeeper, having heard the noise, came out and nervously asked, Miss Iris, it's so late, where are you headed? Iris smirked. Laura, thanks for putting up with me all these 3 years. Catch you later. The wall clock hit 12, buzzing low and slow. It's done. All done. Iris pulled her suitcase through the door, feeling like a huge weight was lifted off her shoulders. But right then, her cell phone buzzed, Alan's name blinking over and over on the screen. Chapter 7. Alan stood outside the hospital, staring down at his phone with a doubtful frown. No way did he think Iris had hung up first. Iris never just hung up on him like that. Whenever, wherever, she was always the first to pick up. Alan slammed redial. After a moment, the other side picked up, but stayed completely silent. Alan was holding back his frustration. Didn't say a word right away. For a while, the phone call was just weirdly quiet, only their breaths breaking the silence. Suddenly, Alan remembered Iris's bleeding foot from when he left, and his heart softened a bit. He'd meant to get her patched up. But Iris? She's stubborn as hell, always has been, looks all soft. But underneath? Total stubborn mule. Nobody else might have noticed. But Alan knew exactly what he was dealing with. In that moment, he was just annoyed at how impossibly stubborn she was. So, he kept quiet and just walked away with Sophia. Your foot, Alan. Let's break up. They both spoke at the same time. Alan stared for a couple seconds, then gave a cold laugh. Iris. What did you just say? If I even have the right to say the word break up. Iris kept her cool. If you think I don't deserve to say break up in this relationship, then fine, just twist it like you're the one ditching me. Alan snorted. All right then, Iris. You think you're a big deal. But Iris had already hung up. Sophia walked out of the exam room and caught Alan staring down at his cell phone. Chuckling, she went up, smiling. Alan. What's so funny? Bang, a huge crash. And young Master Alan's cell phone flew across the room, smashing into pieces on the floor. Sophia was so shocked she instantly shut up. Alan's driver rushed in from outside. Young Master Alan. Laura just called. She said Miss Iris seems a little off. She was dragging her suitcase around in the middle of the night. He cut himself off when he caught sight of the broken phone on the floor. Alan smirked coldly and said, word by word, tell her to get lost and don't ever show up again. Less than a week later, everyone in City A's circle was buzzing. Young Master Alan had finally ditched Iris after 3 years of her shadowing him. Now, right by his side, Sophia, who wasn't even 19 yet. Unlike how he is with Iris, Alan treats Sophia like she's his most precious eyeball. Last time, someone joked that from behind, seeing Sophia's long black hair, they almost thought it was Iris, only to get a swift kick from Alan that sent them straight into the swimming pool. After that, nobody dared say a word about Sophia around Alan. But honestly, everyone's noticed Alan's been kinda moody lately, blowing up over the weirdest stuff. So even jokes have gone off limits when he's around. Later that night, after wrapping up a chat, Alan was a bit buzzed, leaning back with his eyes closed on the club's couch. Not long after, Sophia followed him in, and Alan caught the scent of her perfume. With a faint click, Alan opened his eyes. Sophia had her back to him, looking down and fiddling with her cell phone. From Alan's angle, he could just barely make out it was a photo of him lying back. Taking my picture? He said quietly. Sophia suddenly jolted, and her cell phone slipped onto the couch. Alan looked down at the photo, himself with eyes closed, leaning back, one arm draped over the couch, and Sophia leaning in close, like he was holding her. But what really stood out was seeing Iris's WeChat pic right there on the chat screen. Sophia snatched up the cell phone, basically shoving it behind her back without thinking. Alan, I was just. Sophia was totally caught off guard by Alan spotting her. She stumbled over her words, completely flustered. Alan paused for a second, then said, come here. Before Sophia could even blink, he pulled her into a tight hug, planted a kiss on her cheek, and used Sophia's phone-holding hand to snap a picture. Sent. Chapter 8. Iris stared at the photo on the phone. Alan leaned back with his eyes closed, shirt collar undone, looking sharp in profile, every bit the charming bad boy in that sloppy, careless way. Meanwhile, Sophia was cuddled up against his chest, flashing this totally smug smile at the camera. The next second, a blurry photo popped up, some guy leaning in to kiss a girl, and the panic mixed with joy in her eyes looked way too real. Half a year ago, Iris would have been crushed seeing something like that, quietly wiping away tears. But now, she just glanced at Alan's drunk-on-himself face for a second, tapped her finger, and deleted the photo. Lately, Sophia's other account's been non-stop, sending pics and messages just to flaunt and stir the pot. Iris hasn't blocked Sophia's fake account for one reason, to keep an eye on what Alan's up to. She's got some stuff she hasn't sorted out yet and's worried Alan's side might stir up trouble. Men's pride is scary stubborn sometimes. Remember that day she offered to leave? Alan's cold smirk, Iris. You think you can? Kept her hanging, stuck worrying about that boot that never dropped. The next day, Iris showed up at her mentor's office. Hey, when's my recommendation letter for the PhD abroad gonna get sent out? Next week's the deadline. You know. The bruising on her mentor's face was finally fading. But he stayed quiet, not saying a thing. Iris gritted her teeth, flipped her bag inside out, and everything inside spilled all over to prove she wasn't secretly recording. You already bailed on the recommendation letter you promised. Fine, but why are you blocking Professor Liu from writing one for me? The mentor pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses and said coolly, someone flagged you anonymously for having questionable morals, saying your relationships with guys are all over the place. Wait, there's a rule that grad students can't date? Ha. The heir of the Wong family dating you? Sounds like you just dressed up sugar daddy to look all pure and classy. The middle-aged man sneered. If they were really boyfriend and girlfriend, how come he hasn't even handled something like the recommendation letter for you? Yet you still have to crawl and beg me like this? This is my own matter. Unrelated to him, I'm applying to study abroad based on my own abilities. If it weren't for your abusing your power for personal gain and intentional retaliation, I wouldn't be wasting my time standing here now. The mentor's face darkened, suddenly rising. He stepped forward and said fiercely, do you think I don't know? The prince got tired of you and dumped you. Now that you have no backing, how dare you still put on an arrogant act in front of me? Remembering how Alan totally roughed him up before and he had to just swallow the humiliation, the mentor seethed with fury and grabbed Iris by the hair. Why don't you just drop to your knees and beg me right now? He got right up in Iris's ear, breathing hot, just like you usually suck up to the Wong family heir. Now lick me the same way. If I'm happy with the performance, maybe I'll even help you with that recommendation letter. Iris had no choice but to tilt her head back, feeling something pressed right up against her face. With a blank expression, she grabbed the steaming hot teapot beside her and dumped it all over the mentor's front. A guy let out a miserable yell. Smack! Iris got slapped hard across the face and went crashing to the floor. Without a word, she grabbed her stuff off the ground, stuffed it into her bag, and walked right out of the office. Senior. Down the hall, Sophia came jogging up from behind, spotted Iris's face, and teased. Hey, what happened to your face, Senior? Iris glared at her. So it was you who dragged this drama into school? Iris kept the school and Alan's social circle totally separate if no one had deliberately stirred the pot. There's no way the mentors would have caught wind. Sophia grinned brightly. Hey, just stating facts here. Senior, not happy about that? Chapter 9. Alan actually got hammered today. Usually, he knows his limit, just a little buzz. Sometimes he even pretends to be drunk just to mess with Iris. But today, no clue if the booze was extra strong or someone pushed him too hard, but halfway through, he was feeling woozy and queasy as hell. He checked his cell phone at Marco. Call Iris. Tell her to come pick me up. Once he said that, everything around him seemed to freeze for a sec. He looked up to see Marco just staring blankly at his phone, like he'd never heard him speak before. Hit. One of the other friends grabbed the phone and laughed. Iris. Huh? She showed up right after one call. But, Alan, you better ask yourself, now that you've given her a way out, who knows how long she'll keep hanging around? Alan only just snapped out of it and realized Iris had talked about breaking up. He hadn't been in touch with Iris for half a month. Remember how Iris first wormed her way into our Alan's life? Faking a chance encounter at a cafe. Someone nearby teased. Such a cheesy tactic. And she actually pulled it off. And once, in the dead of winter, when snow was coming down hard, she was hanging out outside the hot spring resort, claiming she was delivering Alan's coat, but honestly, she was just hoping to sneak in the hot springs herself. You gotta appreciate that hustle. From now on, don't say gold diggers get everything for free, they actually put in a ton of effort, both mentally and physically. While everyone was laughing, Alan suddenly remembered that time was actually when he randomly called Iris over. But then he ran into a friend and totally forgot about her. It was a private house, and since the security didn't recognize Iris, they wouldn't let her in. He'd left his phone behind, and by the time he came out and got a call, it was already 4 hours later. That place was way out in the suburbs, no taxis, no public spots around. On a freezing winter night, Iris just stood there by the road, quietly holding onto his big coat, pale face, nose all red from the cold. Snow dusted her fluffy white hat like a little white fox. He was sure she was about to throw a fit. But nope. Right in front of everyone. Iris just handed him the clothes and sweetly said she'd come to deliver them. Alan thought she had this goofy kind of charm that was kinda cute. No idea why. But that little thing actually got under his skin and made his heart tingle. He pulled her into his arms and led her inside. Alan made Iris soak in the hot spring for a solid 2 hours. And when she finally got out, her legs were so shaky she could barely stand, so he had to carry her all the way back to the room. Iris's eyes were a little red at the corners, her lips pretty flushed, and when she looked at him, it was like her eyes were soaked in a warm spring or something. What a sly fox. Alan tugged at his collar. Suddenly feeling kind of on edge, he wobbled up, grabbed his cell phone from someone in the noisy crowd, and said, "I'm done drinking, let's go." Back at the villa halfway up the hill, the housekeeper was waiting for him at the door. "Where's Iris?" Alan asked. Laura blinked, then honestly said, "Miss Iris left half a month ago. When I asked her where she was headed, she just clammed up." Alan furrowed his brow. He never really believed that Iris would actually walk out. He was just pissed that she had the nerve to threaten him with breaking up. So he just ghosted her. No calls, no texts, no coming back. But surprise, surprise. This time Iris actually moved out. "All right then. You win." Alan snorted in frustration. Upstairs, Alan took a quick shower. When he grabbed his pajamas from the wardrobe, he noticed Iris's pajamas, the ones she always wore, hanging right next to his, lined up exactly like usual. Alan froze for a moment, then headed to the walk-in closet. The fancy party dresses, bags, and jewelry he'd bought for Iris were all still there, some boxes even left open. Not a mess, but not obsessively neat either. Looks like the boss just did a quick freshen up before heading out. Left in such a rush he didn't even bother to clean up. Alan smirked. "I'm curious, how long can you keep this little temper tantrum going?" But honestly, he felt way more at ease inside. That night, Alan barely got any sleep. He kept dreaming about fooling around with Iris in that room at the hot spring resort. Iris was far from being a good girl. She'd been shaking at first, but pretty soon she was totally comfortable with it. Alan just let her have her way. He loved that mix of shy and reckless in her. Next morning, Alan woke up all jumpy, still smelling Iris right on his nose. He tilted his head to sniff the pillow, no clue what shampoo Iris uses. But damn, that scent's sticking around. Women? Gotta sweet talk them. Even the chillest girls have their moody days, you gotta give them a way out. Marco's words from last night, when he dropped him off, suddenly hit him. Back then, Alan had just scoffed, like it was nonsense. But now, Alan couldn't help but think there was some truth to it. He sat up and hit up Iris. If she's still sulking, saying a few nice things won't kill him. A few seconds later, Alan's face went dark. Iris had blocked his number. Chapter 10. Alan, you come looking for me? Sophia spotted Alan's sports car outside school, looking pleasantly surprised. She slid open the passenger door and hopped in, all while the girls behind her shot jealous looks. Alan had his shades on, expression unreadable, but that usual smirk tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Nothing much. Just checking out your school." Sophia paused briefly, then flashed an even bigger smile. "Sure, I'll be your tour guide." As the car rolled past a bunch of red buildings, Alan casually remarked, "These all graduate dorms?" "Yeah. Iris Senior's dorm is actually in this area too." Sophia hesitated, sounding a bit on edge. "Alan, there's been some crazy rumors about Senior going around school lately. Not sure if I should spill." "Spill it." "Well, word is, Senior Iris actually went to the office to, seduce the mentor for a recommendation letter to study abroad." Sophia shot a quick glance at Alan. Alan's face was completely unreadable behind those shades. But the mentor didn't go for it. And then she kinda ended up hurting the mentors. Sophia stumbled over her words, blushing and covering her face. A sensitive spot. The mentor got hospitalized and said he's gonna sue her." Alan finally turned his head after a moment. His voice cool. "Iris, where's she at?" Sophia felt a little smug. After all this time, she'd gotten to know Alan's mood swings pretty well. The quieter he seems, the bigger the shitstorm brewing underneath. No guy can swallow his girl cheating on him. But with Alan, Even an ex messing around is a no-go. I heard she got called in at the police station for questioning. No sooner said than done, Alan slammed the wheel and peeled out of town. At the police station, Alan spotted Iris right away, facing away from the door, and the young guy hanging around next to her. Look, with how this went down, you two should probably just handle it between yourselves. The cop sitting across the table rubbed his temples. There weren't any witnesses at the scene, and the other side's already done their medical check. I want to get checked too, Iris said. When she turned her face, Alan suddenly caught sight of the swelling and scratches on the right side of her face, right near her mouth. Alan gritted his teeth, while the young guy next to Iris kept chatting with the cop. Alan was already losing his patience. He pulled out his phone and said, "Tell Lawyer Wong to get over to the police station by Hua University now." Then he marched over, grabbed Iris by the arm, and practically yanked her to her feet. Alan stormed in like a hurricane, catching both Iris and the young guy next to her totally off guard. Iris tried to pull away at first, but stopped dead once she really saw him. The young man reached out as if to block Alan. Iris knew exactly how hot-headed Alan could be, and didn't want him freaking out here. So she stopped the young man first. "Senior brother, this is someone I know." Alan snorted with a cold laugh. "Someone you know?" Iris ignored the jab, frowned, and introduced the guy next to her. "He's my senior brother from the law department. He came to help me out." "Help you? Does he even have a lawyer's license?" "So what? He's gonna help you?" "Yeah, right," Alan said, not holding back. Iris didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so she gritted her teeth and put up with it. "Senior brother, sorry about that." "Sorry? Iris, aren't you the one who should be apologizing? Don't you have anything to say to me?" But Alan wasn't about to let it go. Iris was already pretty stressed, and now Alan showed up on top of everything else. "Alan, if you're just freaking out over some silly school rumors, I can clear it up later, but right now, come on. I'm not blind. You want me to explain? We've been together for years, shared good meals, and you seriously think you can even stomach that plain boiled chicken?" That kind of talk was crude, and Iris got so embarrassed she turned her head away. Alan was usually the charming sort of troublemaker, the polished bad boy kind, but this rough talk, that was a first for Iris. The others started to catch on, and the senior brother hesitated. "Maybe you should go chat with your friend for a bit." The cop covering the scene cleared his throat. "I'm almost done with the paperwork here. If you've got something to say, take it outside. No shouting in here, all right?" Iris had no choice but to get up and step out of the police station. Alan grabbed her, trying to pull her along, but Iris jerked free with all her might. "Iris, you really gotta be stubborn about this." "Huh." Alan stopped halfway through, lost for words. Tears streamed down Iris's face as she turned around. Chapter 11. Iris rarely cried. She was always well-behaved around him, smiling, never showing any negativity. Alan hated it when women cried. He had zero patience for comforting sobbing girls. But now, seeing Iris tear up, it was like someone was hammering his chest, his heart thumping and twitching. That rush of anger inside just kind of fizzled out. Alan turned his head away, avoiding Iris's tears. His voice dropped a few notches. "That damn school giving you grief again? Why didn't you tell me?" "Alan, we already broke up," Iris said quietly. Alan's anger flared up again, but he bit his lip and pushed it down. "I can't just keep living in your shadow." "Why not? Don't trust me to handle things?" "So, will you marry me?" Iris shot back. Alan stalled. That pause said it all. Iris smiled and said, "Look, I can't just keep leaning on you, waiting for you to come rescue me. I gotta get used to handling my own crap. I've got this." Alan stayed silent for a bit. Iris dried the tears at her eyes corner and turned to head inside. Tears aren't worth squat. But hey, sometimes they're handy tools. Not wanting to piss off Alan, Iris had no choice but to play the weak card. As long as she was still in City A, she couldn't risk crossing Alan even for a day. Alan butting into her business? Classic male ego at work. That vase he'd once used, whether he wanted it or not. He still wouldn't let some other guy smash it. Honestly, dealing with the mess at school, Iris was way less into getting wrapped up with Alan again. That'd basically peel her skin off. Iris was just about to step in when Alan kicked out to stop her. "That's a whole different story, Iris. Don't even think about using marriage to pull one over on me, Alan said. Cold as ice. What's this about some overseas recommendation letter? Since when did you start planning to leave? 2 months? 6? Iris was taken aback, didn't expect Alan to catch on this fast. Think it through first. Then come talk to me. Alan cut her off before she could say a word. Pointed at his cell phone, on call 24/7. Iris, you really want to find out what happens if you mess with me? He pulled his foot back. Alan strode back over to the car, slammed the door so loud it was like thunder, then sped off from the police station. Back at the dorm, Iris was wiped out inside and out. She grabbed the little photo frame on the desk, stared at the picture of her dad grinning with his arm around her shoulder, and tears quietly rolled down. Everyone says home's supposed to be a safe spot, but hers wasn't there anymore. She used to think Alan would be that new safe place for her. But after all the letdowns, she finally got it. That was just a pipe dream. Something way out of her league. She wasn't about to fall for that stupid fantasy again. Just after 10 at night, Iris got a call from Alan. Since he'd threatened her earlier that morning, she kinda had to unblock him. Alan threw out a hotel name over the phone and told her to show up. Same hotel where Marco's birthday bash had been, no less. And surprise, the exact same crowd from last time was still hanging around. Iris felt totally out of place under all those judgmental stares. Alan grabbed her wrist like it was his property and dragged her over to the swimming pool. Her eyes went dark, the memory of nearly drowning here last time crashing over her, making her shiver a little without even realizing it. Is Alan seriously trying to drown her again? But then, out of nowhere and with everyone went whoa, Alan just let go of her hand and dove straight into the swimming pool. At first, people were giggling, thinking Alan was just messing around like always. But as the seconds dragged on, the noise faded away. 3 minutes passed, and Alan still hadn't come up. The chatter by the pool just stopped. Marco, who rushed over right after hearing the commotion, shouted into the pool, Alan, what the hell are you playing at? Marco was about to ditch his jacket and jump in, but someone hesitated, whispering, Alan warned us before, anyone who butts in, he goes off on M. So we're just gonna let him drown? Marco snapped. I still gotta keep the hotel business running. He glanced over at Iris. Not gonna stop him either? Iris watched the bubbles rising from the pool floor, clearly suspicious, totally clueless what kind of crazy idea Alan had now. A little over 4 minutes in, with a splash, Alan shot his head out of the water, looking pale as hell, gasping like mad. Chapter 12. City A had a few heavy showers recently and the temperature suddenly dropped, nighttimes barely hitting 4 or 5 degrees. Alan gritted his teeth and swam to the edge, looking up at Iris. I checked the footage from that day. You didn't push him, it was all a misunderstanding. Okay, my bad. I admit it. The ball's in your court today. If you cool off, I'll come up. If not, I'm just gonna chill in the water until you do. Everyone suddenly clicked and breathed a sigh of relief. Remember last time by the swimming pool? Alan cornered Iris and made her apologize. Guess he was trying to make amends for what went down before. Alan's temper? This crowd knows him too well. When have you ever seen the guy lower his head to anyone? Especially to try and sweet talk a woman. For a moment, everyone's eyes on Iris shifted, like, maybe there's more to her than they thought. Marco laughed. Come on, you're totally letting this slide. You seriously expect Iris to decide? Like she'd just let you freeze out there? Alan didn't say a word, just kept staring at Iris. Iris, quiet the whole time, suddenly lifted her foot and walked off, with everyone staring in shock. She threw out coldly, fine. Then keep soaking in there. Out the hotel door, Iris pulled her coat tight against the wind, flagged down a taxi, and didn't even glance back. See, men aren't clueless about what's right or wrong. They totally get what's hurtful, they just don't care enough to do anything. That same night, Marco sent many messages. After she left, Alan sank back into himself. Later, he had someone take out the drain valve and only stopped after Alan kicked him. At night, they reported that Alan had a fever again. Iris did not respond at all. 3 days later, Iris received a call from the police station informing her that the mentor had dropped the charges against her. But I still want to press charges for sexual harassment, molestation, and violent assault, Iris said. The cop said she could totally stand her ground, but also gave a polite heads up that it'd probably end up going nowhere because digging up proof is a nightmare. That evening, senior brother dropped by to help brainstorm. They chatted till it got dark, and Iris asked him out to grab some food. The two of them headed downstairs together. Iris. Someone called her out in the dark, voice a bit rough and heavily nasal. Iris turned her head and saw Alan leaning against a tree, smoking. Iris didn't even blink. She'd known from the moment the mentor pulled the plug that it was Alan behind it. Alan put out his smoke and strolled over, eyes casually flicking over the senior brother standing next to her. Trying to sue that jerk of a professor through official channels? Good luck with that. Don't bother wasting your effort. If you want him handled, I'll take care of it. But you... Nope. Iris cut him off. If running through legal channels doesn't nail him, then that's the best I can get, and I'm fine with that. Alan got shut down and fell silent for a beat. Wanna head out? The restaurant's about to close. The senior brother next to them said to Iris. Sure. Iris turned around to leave. You really planning to go abroad with this guy? Alan cut in abruptly. So, as long as you get married, does it even matter who it's with? Iris frowned. Don't drag anyone else into this. Senior brother and I are just simple classmates. Alan snorted. Just classmates. Huh? Then why are you straightening your hair and spraying mouth freshener in front of his door before you go in? Didn't know being classmates came with so many rules. Senior brother's face went beet red the moment his little scheme got busted. Iris was kinda surprised. She'd never picked up on him having any special vibes towards her before. Alan got seriously pissed just thinking about this dude spraying mouth freshener right in front of him while having some kind of thing for Iris. He jabbed his finger in the guy's chest. Dead serious. Cut the crap with your dirty thoughts. Do you even know who she is before you try to hit on her? Senior brother stumbled back looking a bit embarrassed. Iris felt sorry and shoved Alan's arm away. Alan. Seeing her take his side, Alan finally let all that frustration blow up, grabbed the back of Iris's neck, and just went in for a random kiss. Iris crashed her back against the dorm's iron door with a solid bang, and the motion sensor light flooded the place with a harsh glare. Chapter 13. Let go. Iris scrabbled at Alan like her life depended on it. She always kept school and Alan's circle totally separate, never letting anyone at school in on what was really going on. School was her safe zone. In that world, she was just plain old Iris and nobody else. So yeah, she'd rather deal with a mentor harassing her for 6 months in silence than tell Alan. And even after snapping at the mentor, she'd rather swallow the gossip, risk flunking her masters, than use Alan's name to bulldoze her way out of it. But Alan just wouldn't cut her any slack. He was dead set on dragging her down in the most humiliating way, smashing everything she'd put so much effort into protecting. Iris could already hear footsteps coming down the stairs upstairs, and she could totally imagine the nosy stares from the kids passing by on the playground. She pushed herself as hard as she could. The sharp taste of blood spread between them. Alan didn't slow down one bit. In fact, he went in harder, like some bloodthirsty beast on the hunt. The motion sensor light blinked off and on. When he finally let go of her, Iris nearly choked. Smack! A slap landed straight on Alan's face. Alan smirked, licking the blood off his lip. He'd bitten his lower lip pretty good. He lifted his shirt hem to show a fresh, purple bruise on his waist, just a little souvenir from Iris. Alan let out a chuckle, leaning in close, about that mess by the swimming pool earlier. Yeah, I jumped the gun. My bad. Anything else you want to complain about? Just say it. I'll fix what I can, and whatever I can't, I'll take the hit so you can vent. Alan. Iris took a deep breath, her eyes bright red. Alan thought she was about to cry and reached out to gently brush the corner of her eye. You're just using me as a stand-in for Victoria. Iris met his gaze, let his fingers linger on her face, then smirked with a sharp edge. A stand-in. Huh? So once I'm out of the picture, you can just go find some younger, more Victoria-like stand-in, right? Alan's smile slowly froze up, and his eyes clouded over in a flash. Who told you her name? He said quietly, voice low and tense. Iris laughed. Not only do I know her name, I've been studying her the whole time. So, who spilled the beans about her? Sophia? Alan shook his head right after saying it, clearly denying. Sophia doesn't know a thing. Then who the heck did? You could barely hide the glare in Alan's eyes. his finger digging almost painfully into Iris's arm. Your mom hired me to cozy up to you, to be the stand-in for your white moonlight. She handed me every single detail about that girl. Iris stared straight at Alan, not blinking as she said it. Everyone in City A's gossip circles says young Master Alan only goes for 18-year-old girls, but nobody realizes he's really just chasing the shadow of 18-year-old Victoria on them. When Alan was still a clueless kid, he went on a vacation to his grandpa's countryside place and totally fell for the girl next door. They even promised that once she got into college in City A, he'd take her on a world tour. But yeah, she never showed. That summer before college, she went hiking with some friends, got caught in a flash flood, and well, her story ended at 18. Nobody knew about this whole thing with Alan. All they saw was him switching girlfriends like clockwork, almost one a month. All 18, all the same long black hair, all sweet smiles, a total replay. Only Alan's mom, who'd spent some time at the countryside house, actually picked up on what was going on. Alan's mom found Iris just because Alan had sneaked a couple more looks at her sitting alone in that cafe. She thought Iris looked a lot like this girl named Victoria, even though Iris was already 21 by then, not some clueless teenager. Alan's mom had a chat with her and said she could fix the problem Iris was stuck with back then. Her catch? Iris had to be someone who could grab Alan's attention, get him to accept her, and stick around as a stand-in for 3 years while he got through his rough patch. Iris asked back then why it had to be 3 years. Alan's mom said coolly, "Wong family always seems to churn out a hopeless romantic every few generations. And this time it's landed on my son. He's stuck with this mess for at least 3 years. I won't let some nonsense like this ruin him." The day I met Alan's mom was the very last day of October, and it was 3 whole years until Iris packed up and left. Chapter 14. 3 years, long enough to matter, short enough that it's not forever. Iris has always rocked her long black hair and long dresses. Rain or shine, she's the kind who smiles just enough to be sweet, gentle and well-behaved, never losing her cool. This is how Victoria stuck in Alan's mind. She even picked up making plum-glazed ribs. That's one of the dishes Victoria actually cooked for Alan. Her birthday isn't even on October 19th, but Alan throws her a party on that exact day every single year. He's seen her library card, but honestly, if he checked a little closer, he'd know that date on there is just when they made the card, not her birthday. Still, he's dead set on celebrating her birthday then, because that's actually Victoria's real birthday. For 3 years straight, no matter how ridiculous Alan got, Iris never made a fuss or threw a fit. She just smiled and let it slide. It's not like things were all bad, like that time at the tourist spot, packed crowd, and Alan just hoists her up on his shoulders like no big deal. She had a fever, and Alan cruised back overnight just to take her to the doctor. Loads of times wrapped up in each other, waking up to hugs and kisses. Iris got confused. Her heart wasn't totally cold either. But that incident 6 months ago? Yeah, that gave her a serious reality check. A stand-in's gotta be a stand-in. She was just living in Victoria's shadow, soaking up whatever shelter and favors came her way. Trying to reach for things that aren't yours always costs you something. Iris accepted the reality, finished her last half year on the contract, then quietly left. The lights were out, and the dorm was locked tight. In the pitch-black campus, only these two were left facing off. What exactly did she offer you? Alan's voice was rough and strained. $1 million, Iris said. Your mom handed me $1 million in one go. Ha, Alan got so mad he almost laughed. $1 million? Iris, do you even know how to do math? Have I ever bought you anything that cost less than that? And you're mad over $1 million bucks. Alan burst into a harsh coughing fit, uncontrollable, one after another until his eyes were bloodshot and he was hunched over. Iris hesitated but finally stepped forward, her hand just barely touching Alan's back before he jerked it off like a hot stove. Save your fake sympathy for someone else. He looked at her with a stare Iris had never seen before. It was like anger mixed with some kind of hurt. She honestly couldn't make sense of what exactly he was feeling. Get lost. Alan looked away sharply. Iris dropped her gaze, turned around, knocked on the dorm door, and stepped inside. After shutting the door, Iris stood alone in the dark for what felt like forever. She had no clue when Alan had slipped away. But one thing was clear, he wasn't coming back for her. Alan had his pride and his ego. Guess he still managed to piss someone off in the end. Whatever. Better than them getting stuck in some endless mess. He just needed time to adjust, maybe a month, 2, or a bit longer. But patience? That runs thin real quick. But she'd already checked out of that journey with him. City A dragged on with rain for 3 days straight, and Iris moved house right through it. So, the mentor's fiancé basically barged into the dorm, trashed a bunch of stuff, and somehow dragged the roommates into the whole mess. Iris didn't have much choice. She had to pack up and bail from the dorm. The place she found last minute? Just a tiny room squeezed into some ancient neighborhood. At this point, Iris wasn't even holding out hope for that master's degree. Well, at least she had her bachelor's diploma left, and she was planning to look for a job. Before all that, she swung by her hometown for a quick visit. The old house there was finally sold. Funny thing is, when she desperately needed cash, no one wanted it. Now that it went for $300,000, it barely made a difference. Iris stood there watching the workers haul the old furniture out like it was garbage, and, well, that's exactly where it ended up. The new place needs a total makeover. This stuff's all trash. Iris stared at the neat scratches on the big wardrobe. Her dad had made those marks while measuring her height. Year after year, scratch by scratch, creeping up higher. In the end, all those little signs of the past got tossed out along with the rotting wardrobe. Vanished. She couldn't keep hold of a single thing. After getting the bank alert, Iris sent over $100,000 to an account, then dropped a text, last $100,000. No more money from me after this. Chapter 15. Finding a job wasn't easy for Iris. She lost her fresh graduate status, had a 2-year gap on her resume, and finally landed a spot in the marketing department of a small trading company. She dipped into her savings to hire a lawyer. Even though everyone thought taking down her mentor was a long shot, she wasn't about to throw in the towel. Marco called Iris once, saying that Alan had been in a car crash. Iris asked, "Did they get him to the hospital?" "They did." "All right. Hope he pulls through soon," Marco said. "Iris, didn't expect you to be so cold-hearted. I always thought Alan was just messing around. But messed up or not, he cared about you. That year you got sick, his plane had just landed in the next city over. He got the news and drove all night for 6 hours just to get back. I always thought you two would be different." "Different how?" Iris asked straight up. "Seriously, does anyone in your crew, including you and Alan, even believe we'd actually stick it out till the end?" Marco went quiet. "In the end, we end up strangers anyway. How's that really different from being strangers already?" After a pause, Marco finally said, "It's not just Alan. None of us around here ever really have a say in who we marry. That's been crystal clear since day one. But don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean we don't have real feelings. At this point, honestly, there's nothing left to chat about." Marco finally said that Alan got into a car accident right after visiting Iris at school. That day, had to get stitches and stayed in the hospital for a whole month before he came out. He didn't let anyone talk about it. But Marco was the one who actually wanted to call Iris after Alan got out. He even threw in a comment about Sophia, said Alan had to look out for her since she's the sister of an old friend. Iris knew right from the first time she met Sophia that she was Victoria's little sister. She's been pissed off and heartbroken before because of Sophia's provocations and Alan's obvious favoritism. But honestly, now she just couldn't give a damn. Alan, why he's nice to her. What kind of feelings he's actually got for her, as far as Iris is concerned. She's totally checked out. That night, Iris got the heads up from her boss to keep a client company at dinner. Then after eating, they wanted to hit up karaoke. Doing sales here means getting roped into the usual drinking scene eventually. Iris knew this day would come when she took the job. This client was a big deal for the company. So the boss went all out and brought them to a swanky club in City A. Iris sat next to the client, and the boss immediately gave her that "you better toast" look. "Boss Skylar, a toast to you." Iris tilted her head back and down the fiery shot. "Done. Whatever you say." Being with Alan, she'd seen plenty of underlings brown-nosing their superiors, and Iris was quick to play along too. She never figured she'd be thinking about Alan right now. Though, after Boss Skylar took the shot, the vibe got livelier. And before anyone knew it, someone suggested Iris share a cross-cup drink with Boss Skylar. Boss Skylar was a guy in his early 30s, looking sharp and polished. Now he was just smiling, easygoing, like he didn't really care either way. Those at the top can strike a pose, but the rest of us gotta take the initiative. Iris paused for a split second, but the boss had already poured wine into her glass. So, Boss Skylar. Iris reached out her arm. Suddenly the private room door got pushed open. Someone stuck their head in, glanced around and said, "Oops, wrong room," totally ignoring the people inside. Then they turned back apologizing nonstop to the folks behind. "Alan, sorry. My bad on the room number, made you walk an extra few steps." Iris felt a tight squeeze in her chest. But luckily the guy just answered coldly with a grunt and turned away. Just as the door was about to shut, Boss Skylar stood up out of nowhere and called, "Alan?" Alan froze his step for a sec, and the guy next to him immediately swung around to open the door. The private room door burst wide open, giving everyone a full view inside. Iris was sitting right by the door. Alan's eyes landed on her instantly. Iris tightened her grip on the wine glass without thinking. Alan smoothly looked away and gave a slight nod to Boss Skylar next to her. Usually all prim and proper, Boss Skylar suddenly got chatty and invited Alan to join them. "Nah, I gotta stick to the other table." Alan declined and stepped back. Iris, stop spacing out, didn't even clink glasses with Boss Skylar yet. Haha. The folks in the private room kept teasing. "Skylar, come sit back down." The door, half shut, got pushed open again just then. Alan leaned against the door with one hand, a smirk playing on his lips. "Something fun to watch? Then I'm gonna stick around and enjoy the show before I bounce." Chapter 16. Nobody really knew who Alan was, but judging by how Boss Skylar spoke to him and the guy's whole vibe, everyone was pretty sure he was some big deal. The crowd inside the private room got even louder, cheering him on. Iris didn't turn her head, dodging eye contact with Alan. As the cheers grew louder, Iris clenched her teeth and linked her arm through Skylar's. "Boss Skylar, I'm toasting you." He tossed back the stiff drink in his glass, and with a loud bang, the private room door shut. Alan was gone. Boss Skylar set down his wine glass. A little suspicious. He glanced toward the door and hesitated before asking, "Wait, do you know Alan? Or what?" Iris looked down and said, "Nope, never met him." Skylar wasn't exactly shocked. Iris was just some random, low-level staff from a tiny trading company. He'd been overthinking it. Iris wasn't much of a drinker, and halfway through she was already pretty wasted. The supervisor quietly told her to step outside for a while and lay low. Iris stood up, covered her mouth like she was gonna puke, then wobbled out of the private room. By the time she made it to the bathroom, her stomach flipped. And yep, she actually threw up. She wasn't drunk or anything, just stomach cramps, weak limbs, sliding down the wall because she couldn't keep herself up. Someone pushed the door open. Iris almost said sorry without thinking. That tall figure strolled over to the sink next to hers and turned on the faucet to wash their hands. Iris fumbled awkwardly with some tissues trying to clean up, then looked up, and there was Alan, watching her in the mirror. "Had to get away from me so badly. Huh? Just to end up playing the bartender for someone else?" Alan smirked, dripping with sarcasm. Iris, her brain still fuzzed from the booze, shot back without thinking. "With you. I was drinking by your side. Now, it's just drinking with other people. Drinking to get by is drinking to get by. What's the difference?" Alan, veins bulging on the back of his hand, snapped. "When you were with me, I never let anyone force feed you booze. That's the truth," Alan said. Among all the girls that crew dragged along, Iris was the odd one out. Alan never forced her and wouldn't let anyone else try either. "Drink if you want. Don't if you don't," he'd drink for her. Iris lifted her chin and smiled. "Well then, thanks a lot." Her face was ghostly pale, tears glistening in her eyes, and the corners a little red. Alan felt a twitch in his heart, but the words he spat out were sharp as venom. "Iris, you're seriously such a pain." A week later, the boss came back and announced they'd actually snagged that deal with Boss Skylar. Everyone pitched in entertaining Boss Skylar that day, bonuses for everyone later, and he made a special point about Iris. "Iris, awesome job. Boss Skylar specifically asked for you on this one." Right after that, Iris's coworkers started throwing some pretty telling glances her way. Iris didn't really have much choice. And hey, landing that big contract was a win. Dealing with the contract meant Iris had to check in with Boss Skylar's crew quite a bit. She went over there multiple times. Always by the book, Boss Skylar hardly ever showed. and she never made things difficult for Iris. Everything went so smoothly that Iris actually started thinking maybe her luck was finally turning around. When the contract hit a key checkpoint, the boss made a point of tagging along with Iris to visit Skylar. In Skylar's fancy corner office, they shot the breeze for a bit, and the boss casually brought up the idea of the next deal. Skylar didn't really give a straight answer. At the end, the boss goes, "Oh hey, it's Iris's birthday today. The company's throwing a birthday bash for the staff. Not sure if we're lucky enough to get boss Skylar to show up." Iris was a little surprised but didn't say much. They were just using her as a cover to try and get Skylar there. That's all. Once they left the office, Skylar opened the partition door and glanced at Alan lounging on the couch inside. Young Master Alan, thinking about going to Miss Iris's birthday bash or what? Chapter 17. Skylar still had no clue what Alan actually made of Iris. When he got Skylar to take over Iris's order, he thought young Master Alan was trying to chase after Iris. Skylar was trying to cozy up to Iris and set up a one-on-one with Alan. But that just made Alan totally lose it. But honestly, if it wasn't about that, Alan always ends up dragging Iris along whenever he comes back. She shows up, doesn't say a word or meet anyone, just sits in his tiny office smoking by herself. Skylar's not in the same league as the Wongs, so he's been desperate to get in with Alan. Now that this rare chance popped up, there's no way he's letting it go. He's even going out of his way to keep Iris happy. Alan can't even figure out what's going on in his own head. Every time he comes back, he's sneaking around like some shady rat hiding behind the door, just listening to Iris and Skylar yak about all that crap. Iris takes money to get stuff done and sucks up to him, fooling him for 3 whole years. He never messed with her, even sent someone to slip her a note. Honestly, the stuff he said to Iris could have easily hit right back at him. Alan, you're seriously such a damn tool. When Skylar asked if he was coming to Iris's birthday bash, Alan just blurted out that her birthday isn't even today. But then, after a bit, they actually sent over Iris's ID card, and yep, it really was from today. Alan was totally stunned. Back at the villa, Alan noticed something weird. All those birthday gifts he'd given Iris over the years, not a single one left with her. She'd obviously been cozying up to him for the money. And yet when she bailed, not a single pricey thing came along. Alan wasn't the kind to ask for gifts back once they were handed over. That night, Skylar showed up at Iris's birthday bash with a bottle of red wine, not that anyone asked. When someone tried to kick off that whole cross-cup toast thing, Skylar just gave them a deadpan look and put a firm stop to it, said he wasn't into that drama. Drink if you want, but he wasn't touching a drop. After dinner, Skylar chimes in, "Let's hit the rooftop cafe," and insists on footing the bill. Just as we settle up there, fireworks suddenly blast across the sky, "Happy Birthday" spelled out big and bright, lighting up the night like a showstopper. Going strong for a good half hour. No one said it outright, but everyone knew this flashy spectacle was Skylar's way of throwing a party for Iris. People gawked at his big spending move while sneaking looks at Skylar himself. Skylar awkwardly rubbed the back of his neck. Iris just stared up at the sky, totally focused. Last year on her birthday, she told Alan she wanted to set off fireworks out beyond the city, but Alan just brushed it off like, who sets off fireworks on some random day? Every birthday, my dad takes me out to light fireworks. Iris said it almost like she was about to cry. Alan didn't even ask why she brought up birthdays, just rolled his eyes and mocked her for being so dramatic. Said he'd take her to light fireworks next birthday. But this year, on the day he assumed was her birthday, he just tossed her a string of pink diamonds before rushing off to Sophia's place. Iris stood up beneath the sparkling night sky, headed downstairs, and didn't glance back. Alan had no clue she just wanted to light a damn sparkler with her dad one more time, not some flashy, loud-ass fireworks display. At 10 o'clock at night, Alan saw Iris walking into that beat-up old apartment complex, holding a cake the company had given her. He glanced at the mountain of boxes piled up in the backseat and thought, "Look, I'm just here to give her back these expired gifts. Once they're handed over, there's no reason to keep them. Who do they think I am?" Thinking that, he finally kicked himself into gear and took a step. No sooner had Alan stepped out of the car than this woman, probably around 50, suddenly jumped out from the curb. Cursing like crazy, she stormed straight at Iris, yanked her hair, and slapped her across the face. "Our family was destroyed and wiped out. Yet you actually have the nerve to enjoy cake. Iris. How do you have the right to live well? Chapter 18. When Alan rushed over, Iris had fallen to the ground, her palm scraping the floor and leaving a bloody smear. That woman kicked the cake far away with one fierce kick. Glaring angrily at Iris, you think $10,000 is enough to clear your name? It's not that cheap. You'll take care of me in my old age, pay for Zach to start a family, and atone for your father's sins for the rest of your life. What nonsense are you shouting? When the woman tried to pull Iris's hair again, Alan pushed her away, pulled Iris up from the ground, and stood in front of her to protect her. That woman was all fire and brimstone in front of Iris. But the moment Alan, a tall, intimidating guy, shot her a glare, her attitude totally deflated. She muttered under her breath, "So what if you hooked up with some wild dude? If you're so great, get the guy to pay your debts. You're still young. Better hustle and hook up with a few more while you can. What the hell are you blabbering with that filthy mouth?" Alan was pissed off by this shrew and looked like he was about to smack her. The woman immediately freaked out, crouching down with her hands over her head, putting on a pathetic show. Alan had honestly never seen anyone like her before. If he actually kicked her, those skinny bones would probably just shatter. Iris stepped out from behind him, and Alan caught sight of 3 distinct finger marks on her face. Her jaw clenched tight as hell. That was just an accident. My dad's not exactly on trial for his sins. I told you already. No more cash from me. Keep making a scene. Then go take it to court. Let's see how the judge is gonna rule. The woman froze up, and then saw Alan standing there. Yeah, today's definitely not her day. She stomped off, all huffy. Your dad personally promised he'd take care of me and Zach for life. Now he's gone. And since you're his daughter, it's obviously on you. Iris had been holding it all in, but the moment that woman spoke, she just snapped. She jumped at her, grabbed the woman's collar, and screamed like crazy. If it weren't for you guys stirring up trouble, he'd still have a chance to live. If it weren't for you, my dad wouldn't have. The woman was freaked out and fought back hard. Alan, worried she'd hurt Iris, shoved her off. Iris's eyes were red as hell, her face completely drained, and she was shaking like a leaf. Alan's heart sank, and he pulled her into his arms. Iris, listen, there's gotta be a way. Whatever crap you're dealing with, I'll figure something out. Iris suddenly shoved him away, her eyes shooting daggers at him, same furious, bitter look she gave that old hag. Alan froze for a second. She just threw him one hard look, then spun on her heel and walked off. It wasn't until her back vanished down the dark hallway that Alan finally snapped out of it. That look from Iris, like he was her worst enemy, hit him like a knife straight through the chest. The troublemaking old woman had apparently slipped away without anyone noticing. Alan sat there, all kinds of restless, confused, and weighed down by this heavy fog in his chest. He slid back into the car and dialed Marco. Can you help me find out who's in Iris's family? Did her dad get into some kind of trouble before? Marco, barely awake and annoyed, shot back. Why can't you just ask her? Why drag me into this mess at midnight? Seriously, you've been with her for 3 years and you still don't know anything about her family or what's really going on. Alan went silent. Truth is, he really had no clue. He never planned on taking her seriously from the start. To him, she was just like those girls who threw themselves at him only a month or 2 at best. What's the point in digging into her background? Before she knew it, she'd already been hanging around him for 3 years. He soaked up her tender little gestures, all while having zero clue where she came from. If she was just like anyone else, then what the hell was he doing stuck in this old, tired neighborhood, all jittery and drained? If he never meant a damn thing, why was he so worked up over her so-called fake feelings? Alan sat in the car forever before finally getting out and climbing the steps of that old apartment building. Chapter 19. Alan knocked twice, and that's when Iris finally appeared. She'd seen from the window that Alan's car was still there, so she figured he wasn't about to give up just yet. She's crashing with someone else. Doesn't want to bother her roommate. Go to the rooftop. Iris kept it short and sweet, just shutting the door behind her like it was no big deal. Alan caught sight of the old fabric couch shoved in the corner and a clunky old heater. Iris, the place was way scrappier than anything he'd ever pictured. He'd always pictured her life under some kind of glass dome. Like an ivory tower college kid totally out of touch. Iris seemed calm. Sure. But Alan could totally feel that chill she was giving off, like keep your distance a mile away. They climbed up to the rooftop in silence. That woman's last name's Fu. When I was little, I called her Aunt Fu. She lived next door. Her husband took my dad's car into the city and died in a crash on the way. Iris pushed open the rooftop door without missing a beat and cut straight to the chase. I gave her 800 grand. Then another 200 trickled in. She still wasn't happy. Wanted more cash. I said no. So she started causing trouble. That's all there is to it. Alan caught the numbers she threw out and asked. So the contract you signed with my mom was just to cover this payout? Iris paused for a beat. Yeah, 800 grand went to her. And 200,000 covered my dad's surgery back then. Iris didn't even want to think about that mess anymore. On one side, her dad was hanging by a thread. And on the other, Aunt Fu showed up at the hospital with her kid, throwing a total tantrum and bawling her eyes out. She had the hospital's urgent bill in one hand and the critical illness notice in the other, crying her heart out while calling everyone she knew begging for cash. Her dad was on the operating table for 3 days straight before finally waking up from the coma. Before she could even catch her breath, Aunt Fu barged into the ward, throwing a full-blown drama demanding her father's life back, wailing about how she was left all alone now and wouldn't survive a day without him. Iris, heart aching for her dad and feeling totally wronged, stood there crying, blocking the way, but Uncle Zhang just insisted on riding in Dad's car. Dad had already hit the highway when Zhang called him back. Before she could even finish, she got slapped right to the ground. Fu Auntie was so worked up she even tried to yank off Dad's oxygen mask. That night, Dad was so shaken up he had to be rushed back into ICU. Just before they took him in, he struggled to tell Iris how awful he felt inside, promising no matter what, he'd find a way to make things right with Zhang Shu and take care of Fu Auntie's whole family from now on. Iris, she never thought those would be the last words her father said to her. After that day, her dad just slipped into a coma, never saw her again, never said a single word. That chat right before they rushed him into the ER basically turned into his final wish. In a way, Iris, she kept hoping that if she could just sort this out, maybe Dad would feel better. Maybe he'd snap out of it. So yeah, she kept handing them money. But honestly, she also hated them for making such a fuss, wondering if her dad might have gotten better on his own, instead of lying there like a vegetable forever. The wind-up on the rooftop was brutal, totally messing up Iris's long hair. Alan reached out to smooth it back, but Iris just tilted her head away like, nope, I'll take care of this. Don't stress. Your dad. Alan started but then paused, suddenly remembering that woman named Fu had said something like he's dead, right? Iris gave him a faint smile, all calm and cool, her voice barely more than a whisper. My dad died 6 months ago. Can't say I got to see him one last time though, because that day, you locked me in my room. Alan felt a storm of memories flash through his head, bits falling into place until the whole picture snapped together. Chapter 20. Alan and Iris had a pretty intense fight about 6 months ago. Alan's not one to dodge conflict, but somehow he just chooses to forget that whole mess, like those bits never happened. Still, when it does come back to him, Alan can clearly see one thing, a line that's been drawn between him and Iris. It was around the 2nd month after Sophia showed up in City A, when she told Alan she wanted to head up to Lingyin Temple on the mountain to pray for her sister. Alan usually doesn't buy into that stuff, but once Victoria got mentioned, he didn't put his foot down. So Alan was picking up Sophia from school when he suddenly spotted Iris hanging out with her classmates. Iris was laughing, eyes sparkling, lips shining bright, bending forward with her long hair flipping around, completely relaxed and totally captivating. Alan had seen that wild side of Iris before, the one that's nothing like the sweet and obedient version everyone sees during the day. He'd always been hooked on that side of her, thinking it was their little secret, just between the two of them. But now, Iris was rocking that vibe in front of everyone, not even realizing it. There were a bunch of guys shooting her these young, eager looks. Alan was seriously not feeling it. One of the guys laughed and tugged her hair. Iris just turned and gave his arm a quick smack. They both laughed and whispered something to each other. Alan dumped the car door open, pulled Iris right inside and shoved her in. Iris was probably pretty thrown off. Alan never just showed up at her school. When she spotted Sophia in the car, Iris just blinked for a second. Didn't ask a thing. Alan used to dig how she knew her limits. But now? He was pissed at her cold, keep your distance silence. He chatted non-stop with Sophia all the way. Just left Iris sitting there quietly on her own. The car only got us halfway up the mountain, the rest was a hike. Alan had Iris settle in at a hotel halfway up. Then he took Sophia further up the mountain. At 10 at night, Iris called out of the blue, sounding pretty anxious about having to come back down. Alan fixed his gaze on the candle on the altar and muttered low, I can't get away right now. We'll talk tomorrow. Usually so compliant, Iris was way more stubborn this time, insisting she could just take the keys and drive down herself. Iris, cut it out. Will you? Alan glanced out at the night, not exactly buying that Iris, who just got her license, could handle this mountain road. After hanging up, Sophia tilted her head. Senior Liao broke a bone and got rushed to the hospital. No wonder Senior Iris was so desperate to get off this mountain. Alan's eyes landed on Sophia's social media feed. The guy lying on the stretcher was exactly the same one who'd been yanking Iris's hair earlier that day. Word around the club is that Senior Iris and Senior Liao have always had a pretty interesting thing going on. Alan's gaze darkened. A few minutes later, the hotel owner called and told Alan and Iris that they had borrowed the car and were getting ready to go down the mountain. Alan could no longer hold back his burning emotions. He suddenly stood up and started walking down the mountain. When they arrived at the hotel, Iris was backing the car out of the garage. She was not familiar with driving a manual car, making her driving quite nerve-wracking. Alan angrily yanked her out of the car. Iris said anxiously, I have to go down the mountain now. I'm going to the hospital. See who? Alan said coldly. Iris paused. Someone very important to me. Alan's reason went up in flames, totally lost in his rage. He grabbed Iris and tossed her into the room, then slammed the door shut and locked it. Alan! Alan! Iris pounded on the door, her voice cracking with tears. It's my dad. I gotta go to the hospital to see him. Alan wasn't buying it. All he could picture was how Iris had been fooling around with that guy earlier. To go see that guy. Iris actually learned how to lie to him. I'll let you out when he's dead. Alan snapped, words sharp as knives. Chapter 21. After Alan said that, the room fell dead silent for a solid 7 or 8 minutes. Alan was out in the hallway, casually smoking a cigarette. He just knew something was off. That weird mix of suffocating, pissed off, and uncomfortable, it was all just wrong. Seriously, what was he even losing his temper over? Some dumb little thing, no doubt. Before he could even sort it out, Iris's room suddenly went crash, glass smashing everywhere. Alan swung the door open and found Iris holding a chair like a weapon. Glass fragments scattered all around her. I'm hurt. Get me to the hospital. She stared him down without blinking, stretched out her hand, and there were fresh scratches bloodying her arm. Alan's eyes were practically bloodshot. He'd never met anyone as stubborn as Iris. Fine. I'll take you. Alan gritted his teeth. It was already raining when they drove off, and it just got heavier by the minute. Both of them were biting their tongues. Not a word spoken in the car. Iris pressed a tissue to her arm, while Alan was turning the wheel so roughly it felt like he might toss himself out. Halfway through, Sophia called, her voice all frantic. Alan. The eternal light at Sister's place keeps flickering, no idea why. But it's about to go out. Can you come check? I'm seriously worried. Alan slammed on the brakes. I'm heading back. No way I'm going down the mountain tonight. Seeing Iris's worried face, Alan changed his mind, like he's got any reason to help her out. Alan, I'm seriously desperate here. Please. Alan was already spinning the car around. If I miss this today. Alan, I swear I'll never forgive you. Iris blurted out, panic creeping in. Iris. Don't get ahead of yourself. Just because I'm being decent doesn't mean you're my girlfriend. Alan shot her a cold look. What? Do I need your forgiveness? Then, in the pouring rain, Iris just got out and started walking down the mountain. No hesitation. As the memories strung themselves together one by one, Alan just stood there, totally dumbstruck. You don't need my forgiveness. I'm not even your girlfriend, Iris said flatly. We had a contract. And it just ran out. That's it, no more ties between us. Alan, don't come looking for me again. Alan felt like someone had stabbed him right in the chest. But he was powerless to fight back, because he was the one who handed out that blade. He couldn't even try to fight it. All he could do was watch Iris turn away, push open the rooftop door, and walk right in, with the heavy wooden door slamming shut behind her. One tear slipped down Iris's cheek. That day, she slogged through a downpour for 2 hours hiking down the mountain. By the time she caught a cab to the hospital, her dad had already passed. The caregiver told her dad woke up just before he died. He couldn't really say much, just kept calling out little Iris, little Iris, little Iris, over and over for a long time. In the end, he passed away murmuring her name. Iris fell apart on her dad's frail, sharp bones, crying like she'd never stop. She'd been holding on through endless days and nights, just hoping to hear him say one last word to her. In the end, he fought with all he had to come back to her, but she wasn't there. So, in the end, was he really trying to tell her, little Iris, I've been lying here forever and it sucks? Or was it more like, little Iris, don't be scared all alone? Iris knew her dad's death had nothing to do with Alan. But man, she just couldn't help blaming him. The Wong family owed her big time. Alan's mom's money bought her dad an extra 2.5 years of life. Iris did her part, stuck to the contract, and went right back to Alan's side. She was still that good girl, sweet and thoughtful, and still let him call all the shots. But there was no going back to how things used to be. Once your heart's gone cold, it just doesn't warm back up. Iris wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes and gave a little smile. Once upon a time, deep in some secret corner of her heart, she loved Alan with everything she had. Chapter 22. By the time the year wrapped up, Alan hadn't bothered to look for Iris again. He used to think Iris storming off was just a tantrum because he'd been hot and cold with her for months. He thought a sincere apology was all it'd take. Thought he could still fix things. But ever since that day up on the rooftop, Alan finally got it. There's a wall between them that just can't be climbed over. No one's got control over life and death. He'll never be able to make up for what she lost. Iris was seriously holding herself together that day. Alan didn't even dare to say a word. He was scared he'd catch a glimpse of pure hatred in her eyes. If Iris actually hated him. Alan couldn't even think about it without feeling like someone was twisting a knife in his chest. So yeah, Alan just backed off. Didn't have the guts to face her. Iris vanished from his life. But Alan's days didn't miss a beat, partying like usual, living it up. Only the hole in his heart kept growing bigger. When the night got quiet, that hole just howled like the wind. Once again, Alan got wasted and someone had to drag him home. Half asleep, half awake, he caught sight of Iris standing by the window. She was wearing her usual silk camisole nightgown that just barely covered her thighs, her long hair spilling down her back, legs pale and perfectly straight. Out of the dark, Iris turned and came over to him, leaned down in front of the couch, and pressed her lips right onto his. Alan had dreamed about Iris more than a few times, but each time, the Iris in his dreams just stood off in the distance, giving him nothing but a cold look. This time, though, she actually came over and kissed him first. Alan pretty much flipped her over right away, pinned her beneath him, and kissed her like he meant it. In his dreams, he didn't have to hold back anymore. Waves of emotion crashed over him, pure longing. Alan, the person beneath him, whispered softly. Alan suddenly froze. The woman shyly reached up, looping her arm around Alan's neck. Alan shot upright. The living room lights flicked on, and Sophia was sitting on Alan's lap, her hair falling loosely around her shoulders. Alan shut his eyes tight and took a deep breath. Snapping out of the dream, a huge wave of emptiness hit him. Sophia still tried to lean in for a kiss. "Don't wear her dress," Alan said coldly. Sophia just froze there, looking totally awkward. "I mean, it's not like I planned it or anything. My clothes just got dirty." Alan brushed past Sophia and got up, heading straight for the bedroom. Inside the bedroom, Iris's clothes were dumped all over the floor, right where she'd left them in the closet. Alan felt nothing but annoyance. He never dared touch those clothes, each one carefully hung up by Iris before. He swore if he kept them just like that, it was like she might turn up again anytime. Sophia followed him in, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. "Alan, I've actually always liked you. I just like New Zealand." "Huh?" Alan asked. Sophia blinked in surprise. "Victoria once said she wanted to study in New Zealand. I've got someone to set it up, so she can head out right after the new year." Alan said it cool and steady. But Sophia could tell this was a done deal, and her face went ghostly pale in a second. Iris got a call from the lawyer with some seriously good news. Turns out her mentor was also accused of harassing another girl from the same department. If they could get that girl to testify, their chances of winning would shoot way up. Iris didn't waste a second. She took leave and headed straight back to school. When it comes to stuff like this, people always hesitate. But Iris sat down with that junior, talked her through it forever, and finally convinced her to testify. Iris was totally buzzing with joy as she stepped out of the dorm until she spotted Sophia waiting outside and everything just hit pause. The moment Sophia saw Iris, tears sprang to her eyes and she practically lunged forward. "Senior, seriously, don't come between me and Alan. We're already together, okay?" She sorta lifted her collar like it was nothing. But bam, a bright red mark on her neck was impossible to miss. Tearing up, she stared at Iris. "Aren't you always crushing on your mentor? So why are you still trying to swipe Alan away from me?" At that, the girl trailing right behind Iris visibly stiffened, her face twisting. There have always been rumors floating around school. Some say Iris was just playing the mentor to get a recommendation for studying abroad. Others claim she was so obsessed with him she just wanted to drag him down. "Sorry, I'm not tagging along to meet the lawyer. I'm not about to let people take advantage of my kindness." Without a backward glance, the girl spun around and shut the door. The moment the door clicked shut, Sophia's sobbing died down. She looked up at Iris and cracked a smile. Chapter 23. Sophia found out from Victoria's diary that she and Alan had once shared a pure, innocent first love. She used that connection to get herself close to Alan. Yesterday, she purposely dressed like that, trying to seduce Alan after he got wasted. She figured Alan had confused her with Victoria. But nope. His eyes were locked on Iris. His passion? It was all for Iris. Sophia? She totally hates Iris. She trailed Iris down from the dorm, jabbering nonstop. "You know Alan's just using you as a stand-in for my sister, right? He used to like my sister. Now he likes me. And last night we were together all night." Smack! Iris whipped her hand around and slapped Sophia right across the face with a loud slap. Interrupted studies. A reputation trashed by rumors. And a case that took tons of effort from her and the lawyer just to get moving. This was the justice she was fighting for. That tiny sliver of hope finally showing up. Iris losing it, whatever sick game you're playing. "I'm not a piece on your damn board. Stay the hell away from me." Sophia, clutching her cheek, suddenly glanced over nearby, whining like she'd been wronged. "Alan." Iris turned her head. There was Alan pushing open the car door, frowning as he rushed over. Alan. Sophia stepped up, clinging to Alan's arm like she was about to break down. "I have no idea what I did to piss off Senior. But the moment we met, she just attacked me." Alan looked over at Iris. "Iris." Splash! Iris dumped the half-finished coffee right onto Alan's face. The brown mess dripped down his chin and neck. Alan didn't even flinch, but his driver Skylar inside the car was absolutely horrified. "Come on, it's Alan. We all know no one's gutsy enough to mess with him. So, you gonna apologize or what?" Iris lifted her chin, smirking. "Here, for you or for her. I'm done apologizing." Alan wiped the coffee off his mouth, sighed, and said, "I just wanted to check what's going on. You look pretty upset." Sophia's face darkened. Alan clearly saw Iris hit her. Because of Victoria, he'd always had her back. But now, Alan barely glanced her way or even listened to what she said. All his eyes were locked on Iris. "I hope you and your gang just disappear from my life. That'd honestly make me happy." Iris spat out, holding her breath with a mix of anger and hurt. Alan was quiet for a sec, then said, "I don't have to be around, but you better live your life in a way that actually puts me at ease." "And what does that even mean? Do I have to be all arms around everyone like you, with people on both sides?" "Senior Liao," Iris called out to the guy walking by with a basketball. Alan remembered, that was the one who pulled Iris's hair. Iris hooked her arm around Senior Liao's. Senior Liao seemed to catch on and casually put his arm around Iris's shoulder. "Iris, hey, don't do that." Alan gritted his teeth. "Still not good enough. Huh? You gotta go full on my level before you're allowed?" Iris suddenly turned her head and planted a kiss on Senior Liao's cheek. "Iris!" Alan snapped, his fist smashing hard into the wall behind Iris. Blood immediately started dripping. staining the white paint. With Sophia's surprised shout, Skylar showed up and, gritting his teeth, dragged everyone else away, leaving just the two of them. Alan pressed his hand against the wall, lowered his head, and said slowly, word by word, Iris, if you want to be mad at me, hate me, go ahead, take it out on me. Don't make it harder on yourself. Yeah, it was my fault before. I'm the one who should be apologizing, even though I know it won't help. If I could, I'd go to your dad's grave and apologize to him myself. No need. Iris cut him off coolly. Neither my dad nor I want your apology. Alan smirked. I'm just getting paid to play the nice guy here. You're not actually buying this, right? Alan glanced at her sharply. Not even for a second? Not a single one. Iris held his gaze firmly. Chapter 24. After a long pause, Alan gave a bitter little smile. All right. Fine. Iris leaned against the wall, watching Alan fade into the dusk, her mind drifting to that woman who looked about 1/3 like him. Last night, Alan's mom was sitting up straight and looking sharp on her threadbare couch in the living room. Iris, I guess you could say I've helped you a bit. You're sensible. You stick to your word. I can't complain. Alan's always been a bit spoiled. So yeah, he's acted out of line these past few days. No surprise if people jump to conclusions. But honestly, he's just caught up in the moment and can't let go yet. Look, you know there's no chance between you two, for both your sakes. I want you to keep your distance. After the new year, Alan's tying the knot. I've put up with him long enough. Time for him to get back on track. Oh, and about your situation at school. I've heard, don't worry. I'll take care of it for you. No thanks, ma'am. Iris kept her cool. The contract's done. We're even. I'll take care of my own business. Don't worry, I'm keeping my distance from him. Iris asked the company to transfer her to an office out of province, planning to head there right after New Year. Just before the New Year, Iris went to the cemetery to visit her father's grave. She cleared away the dead leaves by the tombstone, set down a wine glass, and toasted her father 3 times. She wanted to say something, but the words just wouldn't come out. Her heart felt completely empty. Someone climbed the stairs behind her and stopped at the step. A bunch of fresh flowers was set down in front of the grave. Iris didn't budge. Dressed all in black, Alan knelt down at the tombstone. Sorry for leaving you with regrets. Sorry for making your daughter sad. Iris stared silently at her dad's grave for a long while. Alan stayed kneeling beside her the whole time. Walking out of the cemetery, Alan asked, "Why'd you apply for the transfer? That place is just some tiny city. Can't hold a candle to City A. No prospects there." Iris coolly replied, "If you keep tagging along, next time it won't just be leaving City A. My mom's already come looking for you." Alan said, deadpan, "You don't have to leave. I'm the one who's leaving. I'm heading to England in a few days, and I won't be back for years. Just hang tight in City A." Iris blinked, glanced at Alan like she wanted to ask why he was going to England, but then thought, whatever, the Wong family's empire is huge. No point poking around. So she just went, leaving before New Year. Huh? Alan chuckled. I'm on bad terms with my family anyway. Who's really celebrating New Year? As they stepped out of the cemetery gate, Alan half-joked. You'll be at the airport to see me off, right? Not walking you out. You're seriously heartless. He chuckled. The day before Alan left City A, it snowed and the sky went dark early. He was hanging out with some friends but planned to head home early to rest. On his way to the parking lot, he caught someone on the phone. It was Sophia. She's definitely going. Iris has been dying to have that person as her witness. I snuck a text from that person's phone to set up a meet. That place is way out of the way. An abandoned factory, with no one around and zero signal. If she figures it out and tries to call for help, she won't get through. Okay, once you're done, don't forget to send me the footage. I'm gonna make sure she's utterly toasted. Sophia hung up the phone, turned around, and gave a sudden shiver. Alan, when did you get here? Who are you calling? What do you want Iris to do? Alan said in a low voice. No, I didn't say Iris. Alan, you heard wrong, Sophia argued. Honestly, Alan kicked the trash can at his feet away. Sophia, don't think I won't get rough with you. Yes, It's a guy named Zach. He said he used to be Iris's neighbor, and since his father passed away, he's demanding compensation from Iris. But Iris stopped handing over their cash. He's trying to lure Iris out just to assault her, film it, and blackmail her. Total Zach's mastermind plan. I just helped find the spot. Smack! Alan hit her hard across the face. Sophia's face twisted. She collapsed, ears ringing so loud she couldn't hear a thing. Alan didn't waste time taking it out on Sophia and quickly tried calling Iris, but her phone was already dead. Alan jumped in his car and headed straight to the abandoned factory Sophia talked about. The roads were slick with snow, and no matter how hard Alan pushed, there was just no way to make the car go faster. The whole time, all Alan could think was that as long as Iris was okay, he'd give up everything he had without a second thought. Chapter 25. When the car finally pulled up to that pitch-black factory lot, Alan realized his entire back was drenched in sweat. He found Iris tucked away in a corner by the back door. Her hands were tied, her shirt ripped to shreds, and she was struggling like crazy. Alan completely lost it and charged at the guy on top of her, though honestly, calling him a man was a stretch. Looked more like a 15 or 16-year-old wannabe tough guy. After Alan clocked him a few times, he was lying on the ground bawling and begging for mercy. Iris was clearly freaked out, trembling like crazy. Alan scooped her up and wrapped his coat around her. It's all right. It's all right now. Alan pressed his lips to her cheek, like someone finally catching a break after a nightmare. Iris clung to him tight, her voice rough. Thank God you showed up. The factory was dark, cold, and damp as Alan led Iris out. Just as they got to the door, a shadow zipped past from behind without warning. Bang! Alan hit the ground hard. Iris just stared as huge pools of blood poured out from the back of his head, spreading everywhere. Fu Auntie's sharp, gaunt face hovered over her, eyes cold as she sneered at the floor. Should have thought twice before hitting my son. Iris never left City A. Alan didn't make it to the UK either. Iris spent the whole spring festival stuck in the hospital. Alan had 2 surgeries and was brought back to life 3 times. Only after a month was he finally moved out of the ICU, but still never woke up. Alan's mom slapped Iris' hair hard outside the door, completely losing it, yelling, "Who the hell do you think you are? Why's my son hurt like this because of you?" She told Iris to scram, to disappear somewhere in the world where Alan would never even glance her way again. Iris said she'd leave. Sure, go anywhere, but only after she waited for him to wake up. And just like that, waiting through winter turned into spring, and then summer rolled around, every single day. Like clockwork, Iris stuck it out at the hospital, from dawn till night, only rushing home for a few hours of sleep late at night. Aunt Fu landed in jail, and knowing the way the Wong family handles things, she's probably gonna rot behind bars until she dies. Zach hooked up with some thugs and sank into being a complete gambling loser. Sophia started off coming to see Alan but dropped off after 2 months. She got involved with some little rich second-gen dude, only to get caught and beaten up at school by his wife's crew. Eventually, she ended up dropping out. Iris won the case she took to her mentor, with that junior girl testifying for her. Iris cleared her name, and the school ended up giving her a fresh recommendation letter. If she wants, she can still apply to study abroad. One time, Alan's mom sighed from her sickbed, saying some fortune teller once told her Alan's fate had this romantic disaster in store. She'd always figured it was Victoria, didn't expect she was the one who actually brought the disaster home herself. Iris kept staring at Alan's sickbed, his face just kept getting paler and skinnier, and she actually started buying into that supernatural stuff. Like, maybe the guy was just straight up cursed or something. She'd already watched her dad lie like this for 2 damn years, and now she had to watch Alan go through the exact same hell. If he could just wake up, she'd hand over everything she's got without thinking twice. Alan said making that kind of deal was basically a pact with the devil, and warned not to mess with it. But, surprise, surprise, it actually worked. In late summer, Alan finally woke up. "Who are you?" His gaze dropped to her face, asking with a puzzled look. He recognized Marco, knew Alan's mom, but Iris? No clue. Iris grinned. Just some stranger passing by to visit a friend. Nothing to worry about. After stepping out of the hospital, she rubbed her eyes. They were a bit red. Since that day, she never set foot back in the hospital. Across the world, In our own little corners, we live quietly on.